Hey guys, welcome to Indie Game Hustle. My name is Charles, and in this video, we're going to take a look at UModeler's new UModeler tool. The tool that we're going to talk about today is pretty much the basics of using UModeler. It's going to basically give you pretty much your starting point and pretty much everything that you're going to do using it. And it's this simple tool right here in the corner here called the UModeler Tool. All right, so if you don't see it, it's going to be inside this folder called the miscellaneous. You just click it, and then once you see it, you can go ahead and click that. And then once you click it, it's going to give you access to all the different tool sets and everything available, and so you can get started in your scene. All right, but before we do that, let's do a little bit of cleanup here. I'm going to head over to the tool section of UModeler, and then I'm going to go down to preferences, and I want to show you guys how I have it set up currently. So if you go to the tool group, and just so you know, a tool group is these different groups here. So all of these are different groups that pertain to different types of functions within UModeler. So this one is selection. This is the drawing tools. These are different primitive shapes that you can use, etc. So the one we want to go to is the miscellaneous. So I'm going to go to modeling, tool group here. All right. So, and then I want to change one of these, and it's going to be the UModeler tool. So let's go right here. So if you click on this, I can't actually remember which key it was set to previously, but what I do is I change the key to S and then to shift. So you have to basically click shift and then S to generate that particular item, and I'll show you right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this down and we can get started. So I already have a UModeler object out here ready to go, and I'll go ahead and hide my player. All right, great. So, and I'll actually turn on my grid as well. All right, and I'll delete this, and let's take a look at it. So the first thing I want to do is select this, and then when you select the UModeler tool, you'll see this little dot that's floating where your mouse is. That's basically the placement in which you're going to start drawing or placing your object there. Okay, now the reason it's kind of snapping in different places, so if you look, it's right there in that point there, and it's halfway. I probably have it set to like 0.5. So if you wanted to go from here to here, we just probably want to change it to 1 meter here. So close that, and so now it's gonna snap to those. Okay. So depending on what you're doing, you're gonna be changing that constantly. If you're doing like a basic block out, you'll probably have it somewhere between 1 and 0.5, and maybe even what's the next one there? You have like 0.25, you know, so just within this range, and then you can set custom if you want. And if you mess up anything, if all of these are gone or just not visible to you, just hit reset and it'll bring all those back for you. Okay. All right. And then when you bring this open, you just have to close it as well in order to get rid of it. Okay. All right. So the basics of it is simply click and drag. So I'm going to click from here to here. And as you can see, those numbers is going to give me 1 to 1. And if you let go and go up, it's going to give you that. And so this is pretty much your standard cube size here. So that's pretty much what we're used to. Now, if I was to click again and then do it again, and then if I did Control D, that's going to take it off of it. And so we should be able to select both of these objects. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at one particular thing that kind of caught me off guard. So if you have this selected and you have your drawing tool and you click and drag, and then you let go, and then you go up some, and then you click to confirm it. Now, what if you decide to continue to draw because your point is still there, right? So if I were to click on top of this, which is nice, it puts it right on there, and then you click up, and then you say Control D to stop, the question is, do you have two objects or do you have one? And in this case, you actually are going to have one object because you are still connected to that original drawing object. So if we were to look at the verts, I believe this is pretty much all still connected. And I'm going to go ahead and go into wireframe. So it looks like it's almost like it creates like a merge operation during that. And so now this is one object. And that actually could be beneficial in a lot of ways. It just really depends on what you're going for and how you're building out your object. So let's go ahead and delete it and let's take a look at that again, because I believe that this is pretty important to understand, because it can get kind of weird if you don't know why it's doing what it's doing. So if I click this, I'm going to click this tool, and then I'm going to click in my scene. Okay, so let's do a scenario. Say I'm creating a path, and that's my path. Okay, now if you want to continue from this object, just continue from this object. Do not click off of it. Just continue to make your path. So if you wanted one geometry created and we just wanted to keep making this go out, and then say I wanted to do this here, and then I went up some. And so say I say, okay, that's done. That's one object. You can do a Shift D, or you can select the object tool, and I think that confirms it. Or on the right side, you can actually hit confirm. And now when we hit select the object, that object is one object, okay? And if we go into wireframe, we can see that there is no intersections. That is one complete mesh, okay? And that's nice. But what if you don't want that? If that's not what you're used to, this is new to me. So if that's not what you're looking for, the way to approach it would be kind of like this. And this is why I put Shift S. So let me show you. I just clicked Shift S. And what that did is that put me directly in the UModeler mode. Okay. So when I click out and I go up, we have our tool. Now, once I create the shape I want, I'm going to do a Control D to release myself from it, and then a Control S to create another UModeler object. And you can see that happening here on the left side. And let me show you that again, just in case you missed it. So I'm going to delete this. Now on the side here, let's get rid of, I'm going to delete this and delete this. Okay, so let's show you again. I'm going to do a Control S, look on the side. When you actually select this icon or do my Control S, it creates a UModeler object in your hierarchy. And so it's basically saying, get ready, you're ready to paint or draw. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and draw out our item. Now you notice I'm done drawing the item out and we're still on this UModeler object. And so now if I want a separate item, I'm going to do a Control D to disconnect from it, do Control S, create a new UModeler object, and then continue on drawing, just like so. And what you notice is when I actually have my pointer here and I hover this little dot over a surface, it aligns itself to that surface, which is nice. So if you wanted to draw directly on top of here with your new mesh, you can do that. And so you can start creating that. Okay. So again, now I'm going to choose to keep the mesh to connect it. So I'm going to do a Control D to separate from this one, Control S to create a new UModeler object. And then I'm going to create a mesh here. I'm going to go up, say about right there. Now, remember, I'm still connected to this one. I want it to be the same piece. So I'm going to put it right here and I'm going to go up. And so now if I were to do a Control D, this mesh should be one object, you see. All right. So that's just an important part to kind of understand. I hope that makes sense. But I think once you get that down, it's going to be very useful to you to be able to do that. Now, of course, once you have your objects, everything at the top is going to be pretty self-explanatory. So for instance, you have your verts. So if I select vertices, we can move and do that. And of course, it's snapping based on what we have set here. Okay. All right. And then of course, edges, just like you would expect, if you select an edge, you can move it. And just like faces, if you were to move that face, we can do that. Okay. Just like so. All right. And so for instance, yeah, so that's pretty much that. So because we connected that, you noticed that this particular edge here didn't create any verts here. All right. And so we'll look at that. We'll look at correcting this sort of thing in a later video. But just know that it is creating one particular mesh when you're working in UModeler based on when you're selecting your objects and all of that sort of thing. All right. What's great about this tool really is the ability to make a lot of meshes quickly and get to your idea fast, right? So for instance, where's my player? There he is. So I'm going to go ahead and let's just block out something pretty quick. Let's see here. So I'm going to base it on where he's at. So again, I'm going to go ahead and start, and let's go ahead and start building out something. All right. So the great thing is I can create this mesh here, and I'll just move it in position here. And we're not sure how tall he is in relation, but generally speaking, a door is about 3 meters. So let's go ahead and create that. So I'm going to do a Control D, Control S. And let's see, I'm going to create that just like so. And that's about 3 meters. So we can test it pretty quick here. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. All right. And so say that's a door entranceway that's already ready to be tested. And that's the greatest thing about using a tool that's built into Unity to be able to model your scene out. So I think that's a pretty decent sized door. So I can go ahead and base obviously the height on that. Now, if I think maybe that height is a bit too tall, of course, I would go in and change that. Now I want to change it from 1 because right now it's 1 meter. I want to move it down maybe halfway. So I could just go in here and change it to, I don't know, like a 0.25 maybe instead of halfway, a quarter. So I can do something like this. So maybe that's a better size for that. And so I can base everything on that. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at our scene here, and we're going to go ahead and start building out something here. So the first thing we want to take a look at is I want to look in the inspector. So when you select the tool here, you're going to see some different options here, and you may or may not actually use all of these, but in some way you will. So for instance, you have border check, you have glue, you have select only visible, right? So for instance, if I were to click and drag out in the scene, as you can see, that is our width and our depth right there. So that's nice that you can see that changing as you go. And if I were to go up, we have our height sitting there just like so. So you want to keep that in mind. Now, for instance, let's see if this actually works the way I think. So we have border check and we have glue. So if I'm still selected, remember, on that particular game object. If I were to click and drag still, and I were to go up, I can't go higher than the object that I'm actually still within. And I believe that's due to the border check. So if I just say it's going to go as high as I can go, that's going to be the border check there. Now, I believe the glue has something to do with the sides of things. So for the glue, I believe, I think the way it works is, so for instance, if we're still connected to this particular object and we have glue not enabled, so I'm going to go ahead and select here and again, and let's see here. So I'm going to select here like so, and then I'll build that out. Now, if we go inside this mesh, I'll hit that. Even though they're connected as one, the inside face here that's connected to the object is still visible. But if I were to put glue on, and if I were to do this like so and bring that out, and I go in and I actually hit the box tool or the object tool or get out of that mode, it's going to remove that face. And so it's not there anymore. And so that's basically how that works. And so just keep that in mind when you're using it. That can, work for you or against you. Just depends on what you're modeling. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this structure. All right, so let's box out something. So let's go pretty quick. We're gonna go like this, and I'm just gonna grab the face, and I'm just gonna make a platform or some type of path. And let's just say we want to plan it to where we have a path over to the side here, and I'm gonna select this face tool here. All right, and then I'm going to maybe create some pillars underneath it. So I'm going to create another UModeler object. I'm going to create, say, something like this. But then I'm going to move it down underneath, and I wanted to go underneath this object like so. And I wanted to kind of line up like that. All right, and so let's see. We can do something like this where I can choose that I want this object to be connected or not connected. I think I'm going to make a new object each time. So I'm going to do a deselect and then a shift there. And then I'll just go ahead and create another game object right on top of it. And I'm going to go up some. And then I'm going to do a deselect. And then I'm going to do it again. And then I'll do another deselect and do it again. And then I'll just go ahead and bring that up like so. All right, so I have all these objects are separate objects. Of course, I can bring those together. And I haven't touched on this yet, but they do have tools like Boolean and things. So if I wanted this to actually be connected with it, I would just kind of do something like this. And I can just very quickly connect it all together. And we'll talk about that later, but you can do a Boolean and it works pretty well. And so now we have something like that. And so if I wanted to duplicate this, I can just go ahead and duplicate it. So we want maybe like a structure that allows us to walk around this path. And maybe these are like some pillars or something. And again, we're just kind of blocking this out. All right. And so maybe we want, he's in a dungeon or like some underground cave or something. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect. I'm going to do a Shift S, and I'm going to create a path here. And this is really so I can create a bottom. So we're going to do something like this. Maybe something like this, right? And then so I want to block all this out even quicker than what I'm doing now. All right, so I'm going to move this here. And then I'm going to go to my Shift S. I'm just going to select it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and build this out. All right. And then all these pieces, because I think I didn't connect it, these are all going to be individual pieces here. So I just kind of want to build this sense of that he's around something like structures, even similar to the one that we created underneath. And we can just go ahead and create something like that. We'll just keep building these rock structures out, and you're just mocking this up pretty quickly. And that's why I really like this tool. Of course, you can do this with like Pro Builder. This is not to say that one is better than the other. I just think that one has certain tools that the other may not. And so it just kind of use what you need. Because I still love Pro Builder. Nothing's going to change that. But I think that this is a very useful tool and something to look at. And so I'm just going to go ahead and create this. And so what this does is give me a very good block out very quickly as to what we're looking for, right? So all those pieces were part of that one object. And that was what I was talking about. If you didn't want them separate, then you can just keep creating them. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to build out my space. So I want this path to be a little bit more varied. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe create some variation here. And then I'll go ahead and select that, zoom in. Right. And I'll go ahead and go to this tool here, maybe this tool over here. Make that maybe something like that. And we can copy and duplicate that over. Maybe create something like this, right? All right, and then I'll just go do a Shift D, Shift S, new tool, and I'll just put something on the path here. Now there's ways to create all types of things with UModeler, but this is again just me kind of getting some ideas and kind of fleshing out what I think could work. So what if these were like some cool pillars or something? And you notice because I'm using what increment or word gram at 0.25, so I can still get in there and add a little bit of detail, just a little bit of nuance to it. And so say for instance, I think this part needs to be a little wider. I can go ahead and select this object here, and so I was still connected to all of those, and I may not want that. So what I'll probably do is just delete that one, right? Delete the faces of that, and so we still just have those meshes. Do a Shift D, then I'll do a Shift S just to make a standalone object here, like so. And so those are little nuances, things that you might want to think about when you're working, right? So say this is some type of pillar or something. So that's one piece, and so I want that there. And I haven't touched on this yet, but say for instance we have this piece. I don't want to duplicate it in a certain way, so they have a very cool tool called the reflection tool, and it's in here somewhere. I'm still getting used to all the different icons that are here, but there is a reflection tool that allows you to mirror basically. So if I select that, I can just go ahead and maybe put it on the x-axis there, and we change the distance. We could put the distance like there, and we can just leave it like that. Let's see if that's on the right side. Wrong side. I think it's like that. There we go. So yeah, so you can actually reflect an object. So if you need to reflect it, it's actually pretty awesome. I'll have a video probably just explaining the tool by itself, but just kind of giving you a sense of what you can do very quickly by just kind of reflecting that. And of course, what's awesome about it is that I think, if my memory serves me correctly, I thought it was connected that way. No, I think I canceled it. So basically, if you were reflecting it, you could actually have it show up on the other side. But we'll play with that later. So I'll just go ahead and get rid of that. This is just generally trying to do something super quick, but we'll just go ahead and keep these. And I'm gonna go ahead and head over to here and make that. And I'll just go ahead and bring that down like so. Maybe down just a little bit more. And we should have all those. Cool. And I'll go ahead and select this and bring it out. I think some stairs could look cool here, right? Maybe. So I'll bring this out just to get somewhat even. Maybe put another structure here. Copy and paste that. And bring it up a little higher. Maybe like that. Take this piece here. Bring it back. I want some stairs to start, maybe like around this point. Nothing concrete, right? And bring it up just a little bit higher. All right, and of course I didn't get into the stairs yet, but course, once you select the UModeler tool, everything is exposed so we can get started with making some cool stuff. And so the stairs tool works pretty much the same way once you select it. And I'll just go ahead and drag that out, bring it up to where we need it. And then on the right side, you're going to have your options to change that around. So we can shift it, we can reverse it, that sort of thing. All right, and we have some stairs there, and you can raise the height of the stair as needed. You can do 1, which is too big, of course. Do something like, I would say maybe like a 0.25. Something like that could look pretty good. All right, great. All right, awesome. So we created like something to walk our player across. And so let's just kind of play test that and just kind of see what that may look like. All right, cool. So pretty quick, get our player here. You get some depth. So say for instance, if you need that to be a little lower, or a little higher, put some fog down there, put some trees and all types of cool stuff in there. Awesome. All right. So I would say that that's pretty much it for getting used to the tool. It's hard to use this tool without getting into all the different functions that this tool has, without using all the different other options with it, like you saw with the mirror tool and other things. We can do beveling. So I'll catch that in some later videos. I hope that was useful. I will see you guys in another video. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like this, feel free to click the subscribe button. I love creating videos to help people learn new things. And I do this really just hopefully to keep you encouraged throughout the process. And I do truly believe we can learn from each other. But as always, the one thing I want you to leave here with is to never give up and keep moving forward. Peace.